Hi, my name's Sarah Irwin, and you are watching Pop Culture with Pat. You guys should definitely take a second to subscribe. Yeah.
Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Culture with Pat. So today I got special guest Sarah Irwin on the show. She works in stunts. You've probably seen her in a number of different things. She's been on Blind Spot, Jessica Jones, Gotham, Avengers Endgame, most recently Loki. She was actually a stunt double for Sophia Di Martino. So really excited to have her on the show today. Thank you for coming on today, Sarah.
Thanks for having me.
So we'll kind of start off right from the beginning. If they're not familiar with your work, what was it that led you to want to pursue a career in stunts, particular, and how did you get started?
So I went to college at a college called Columbia College Chicago for advertising and marketing, which clearly I am not doing right now, but that's okay. But all my friends ended up being film majors, and they started asking me to do projects, honestly doing anything, acting, grip and electric, just anything to help out. But when they started asking me to act, I was like, I should probably know what I'm doing when I do this. So I took an acting class, and one of the first things was like tell a story as if it's a monologue. And I told a story about one time in real life I did a backflip, and there was a kid on the edge of the circle, and he backed up and clipped my feet, and I fell on my face.
Okay.
So that's the story, a real stunt, not on purpose. But the teacher looked at me and was like, have you ever thought about stunt performing? And I was like, what is this sorcery that you speak of? Please share this with me. And yeah, that kind of just changed my whole trajectory, and now I'm here. So
That's crazy how one little moment just completely changes what your career is going to be. So that's a
absolutely
story.
Yeah.
As far as I'm always curious, about this too, especially for people that are outside of the field. So what are some of the biggest misconceptions that you think people outside of this field have about people that work in the stunt field?
I, I guess the biggest one is probably that stunt people don't get hurt, or that not that they don't get hurt, but that they don't get hurt badly. I've been very yes, that they're invincible, or I've been very lucky. I have not had any major injuries, knock on wood, in stunts. But there are plenty of people that have, and our job is very fun, but there is an inherent risk, and that risk doesn't ever go away, even on small stuff. So
yeah. No, it's definitely, I know, I talked to Jessica Durham too. And, from talking to her, and just actually, I've also had James Jude Courtney on the show. He does, stunts as well. He plays Michael Myers for the current Halloween series. And just the amount of prep work and stuff that you guys do before even actually doing the stunts, to just make sure that you guys aren't putting yourself, or at least lowering the risk of what could potentially happen to you. It's pretty crazy. So now, working in this field can definitely be, both physically and, mentally demanding job. Can you just talk about a little bit of what you do to help keep yourself performing at a top level, for your career?
Absolutely. My boyfriend is also in stunts, Khalif Guzman, and when we're not filming, sometimes your schedule can get pretty hectic when you're actually shooting. But I mean, multiple times a week, we're going to the gym to flip and trick and stuff like that. And on top of that, doing weapons training, and sometimes random other training that just is job dependent. We know we're about to be on a job that has this, that, or that. So we train it. And then also what's the word? Rest day activities. We have 2 dogs. So as far as staying in shape and just being active, we hike with them all the time, and they love that. So just constantly training random things.
Yeah.
and keeping in shape in whatever ways we can, which is fun.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. And I'm sure the dogs, they definitely appreciate it. It's kind of a win-win situation for
you
guys there. So Now, as far as, I mean, like you're constantly, I imagine you're like constantly learning new techniques, adding different things to like your repertoire and stuff like that. Is there any kind of is there anything that you still that you're like working on like right now, or that you want to learn to maybe add to like your skill set as far as like a stunt performer?
Um, absolutely. There's always plenty to learn. I would love to learn to ride horses a little more.
That's
I've done some, like I know a little bit. With that being said, I'm, you know,
yeah,
but hopefully in the future we'll continue to train that and just dive deeper into it. I think they're incredible animals, and also I think that there's a lot of movies and films and TV and that have some really cool stunt work involving horses. So
yeah, no, there's definitely, I mean, they're great animals, but yeah, it's definitely something that really need to know what you're doing for sure. And I can imagine, especially like working on like a film set where like horses are like, running around like crazy and flaming
yeah,
around. So that would be cool to add. Now,
yeah.
obviously one of your most recent projects to release was was Loki, um,
Woohoo.
where you were Sophia Di Martino stunt double, as Sylvie. How did this project, how did it come about for you? Because I know, does it work the same way as far as like actors go? Because I know, they usually they have like their agent, they get, their agents like reach out, for different projects. And then they're like, hey, do you want to like audition for this and things like that? How does it work as far as like someone in stunts? Is it the same kind of like process or?
Um, sort of not. We don't have agents. So it's more kind of like once you get the ball rolling with work, it's a little bit more word of mouth than you have your stunt reel or your resume, things like that. Um, Loki specifically, the coordinator that originally brought me on, I had worked with him on The Hunt. And then I had also the other the main stunt coordinator, I worked with her on Endgame. So it was kind of like I had worked with them in the past,
Yeah.
and so they knew already a little bit about me. So it just kind of naturally went that way. So,
Yeah, so you had those couple connections. So they were like, hey, we know someone that would probably like work really well for this role. So they asked you to come on and work on the show.
yep, yep,
Okay, so yeah, so it's definitely, yeah, a little bit different than the acting side of things, where it's more like, oh, the agent's like reaching out, you guys kind of build your resume, and then that's how you start kind of making all these different connections. So that's
yeah, yeah.
and something too that I'm always fascinated, especially specifically with like stunt doubles. Just like the collaboration process between like a stunt double and the person they're being like the double for. So can you just talk a little bit about working with Sophia Di Martino and just like what that collaboration process was like of bringing Sylvie to life?
Yeah, it was awesome. um, no, Sophia's a really great person. So I mean, we just trained a lot, just kind of dialing in moves. You kind of try to build a database so that when you start to actually get into it, we can just plug and play and be like, okay, remember these moves that we trained, we're going to put them here, and these moves, they're going to go there. So it makes it a little bit easier to just kind of fit everything together like puzzle pieces, I guess. And she did amazing. I mean, she came in and just like took off with it. And the amount of knowledge that you kind of like have to just absorb and just be like, okay, now teach me this. Okay, now teach me this. All right, I'm gonna try to do this. And she just absolutely killed it. We also had the shutdown happen
Oh yeah.
during shooting. And we actually continued our training on Zoom 3 times a week,
Oh wow.
just on our own, which was I really appreciated, and she did awesome, and it allowed us to like keep all that progress and all that database that we had built for the few months before the shutdown.
Yeah.
It allowed us to keep that going and really solidify it, so that when we got back from the shutdown, we hadn't lost any of that.
Chemistry.
That the puzzle pieces, we hadn't lost anything and had to like start from scratch or anything like that. So it was really, really fun.
Yeah, no, I almost like forget that. Yeah, you guys were, filming, during like when the shutdown like happened. So was, it definitely, I can see it was great because you guys were able to kind of keep that chemistry. But was it challenging at all as far as doing it, via Zoom, versus like rather than like being in person where you're showing someone to do like certain moves or things like that? Was that challenging, I imagine?
Absolutely. I mean, you have to figure out little things like, when I'm facing the camera, obviously, if I say punch like this, that kind of I have to end up like turning around to show exactly which arms and things like that. So little things like that. And then obviously there's a lot of kind of creating new drills to mimic responding to a partner fighting you when no one's there was kind of a challenge. And also usually we were in a room, or she was in a room, so also learning to kind of confine our space a little bit, and still come up with activities that were gonna be beneficial and translate to film when we got there. So it was challenging in that sense. We also met at a park a few times, and we had to stay 6 feet apart. So I would like take a shinai, which is it's a type of practice sword, and and put a boxing glove or a shin pad on the end of it, and like do boxing drills with like making her evade the sword to stay 6 feet apart. And obviously we had our masks and everything, so we did what we could.
I mean, you guys got creative as far as like that goes. I can just like imagine, I don't know if like the park where you guys at was like a place that's like normally like kind of busy or whatever, but I can just imagine you guys being out in like this like park or field, and just people that aren't familiar with like what's going on, and they just see someone with like this like sword with like a boxing glove or something, and just kind of like poking at her.
Yes, it definitely from afar probably looked very suspicious, just being like, what is happening over there? But we had fun, so
yeah, no, that's awesome though. And so this question, it applies more specifically, I think, to like to this show with Loki. Just with the interesting thing with Loki is that you're dealing with all these different like variants in the show, and now with Sylvie being a variant of Loki, and you and Sophia, did you work closely with Tom and like his like like stunt performer? Did you guys work closely with them as far as making sure that you were able to nail some of the like certain mannerisms and stuff like that, as far as those characters where they're supposed to be like variants of each other?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we had some action that like they mirrored each other a little bit so that they looked similar. I think specifically that was in Sharu. And so yeah, we worked very closely with them, kind of going back to that database to build those things. And as a stunt performer, obviously I move a certain way on my own, but you also want to watch your actress do it, and you do try to pick up certain mannerisms, or you definitely have to watch, and if they use their left or right hand for something, you have to do the same. And you attempt to, like, if they held their hand a certain way at a certain spot, you try to do that. So yeah, so there are a lot of tiny details, and we all definitely spent a lot of time training, not specifically in the sense of like, how do you hold your hand? How do you do this? But the more time you spend together and you're constantly training and moving, I think you just naturally start to pick up on those things and absorb them. So
yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, no, and that's why I was like with this show, because I mean, I'm sure there is like collaboration with other projects, but I mean like with this show specifically, where it's like literally there's like a limited or unlimited amount of different like variants of like the same person, and granted they do have different aspects about them that make them their own character, but they are the same people basically. So I was just curious if you guys did collaborate with those two. But yeah, and in the in the season finale we had the Loki versus the Sylvie fight, which was one of my favorite scenes like in the episode. Can you just talk about filming that scene and what kind of went into that?
Yeah, so a lot of rehearsal, a lot of pre-vising went into it. On the day, it was it's really fun when you have a scene that, I don't know, I don't want to give too many spoilers for people that haven't seen the show, but
spoilers if
I
you
feel like this isn't a spoiler. It's not a spoiler because you've already seen powers be used in the show.
Yeah.
It's always interesting, like when you're filming a fight that involves both your physical and, you know, magic. So you're just kind of playing to the air and doing some things that aren't actually happening in real life. But you got to pretend that it's happening. So it's really fun to just do that. And you definitely feel like a little kid just playing and being like, like when, you're moving a desk or you're doing things. So it was really fun to do that and work with Sophia and Tom and the other double, and just, it's definitely like the most collaborative thing ever, just between us. And then also you have, the rest of the stunt team. We have wires in there, which Mike Lee was the head stunt rigger for the show, and he did amazing. And there's multiple other riggers too that were awesome, but we had wires and everything in that fight. So a lot of the day is just dialing everything in rehearsal, and then on the day you're just like plug and playing everything. And when your team is good and you have great riggers and stuff, everything goes smoothly, and you're just like, we know what we're doing. They know exactly how to hold you up on the line. We know what it's going to feel like. And yeah, so it was pretty cool to just kind of have all the cogs working together 100%. And also it was the end of the show, so I would hope that everything is oiled well by the end of the show. So
yeah. No, yeah,
was.
that was definitely like there was a lot of bouncing around, between like the two like characters, Loki and Sylvie, and just getting like thrown around like everywhere. So, and I've heard, well, I've heard it's fun to work in like harnesses to a degree, but it also can be like challenging depending on like how long you're in like the harness or like a rig. If you're in there for like a long period of time, like obviously that can maybe feel a little like uncomfortable. Did you guys have to like be in like rigs or anything like that for like a long period of time? Or
luckily in this fight we didn't. It was kind of, we would fight up until the point that we needed to do a wire, and then be able to get a harness on, do that specific thing, and then get out of it to keep keep fighting. It's not always like that. There are some times that you show up for a job and it's like, we need you in your harness and you're just going to have to be uncomfortable and still do these other moves in this harness. But we definitely were lucky in the sense that we got to kind of only use it and be in it when we needed to. So
I think you guys are kind of lucky that your characters don't fly as much, because I think from what I was like watching with one of the behind the scene things for like WandaVision, with like the fight between like Wanda and Agatha, where they're just like, they both literally like levitate, fly in the air, so they're just like going back and forth. So that's kind of nice. You guys didn't have to do that. You literally just filmed it to the point, cut, and then did like the harness work and stuff like that.
Yes, yeah, and they 100% for that show, yes, had to be in wires a ton.
I can imagine it's fun, but yeah, like I said, challenging like too. So
yeah.
What are some of your other, because you were basically, I think, you were in like every single episode of the Loki series, right? If I saw on like IMDb, correct?
Yeah.
Some of your other favorite episodes to work on, and do you have any other favorite scenes of yours that just like come to mind off the top of your head?
Yeah. Well, obviously I really loved doing like the hallway fight with Sylvie and the guards and stuff. That was a really fun one. And just also to know that you're deleting people, which is like really weird. And like in Sophia's moment at the end where she like deletes the guy and like kind of does the like the sort of a mic drop with the with the weapon, and I was like, okay, all right, yeah. So it looked really awesome. And on the day, they don't have the the effect pre-done, so I didn't see it. They might have it pre-done, but I do not see that. So it was really cool to see that. Yes, yeah, you're just imagining how this person is being vaporized. So that was really cool. I Shrew was really fun. We were on night shoots for that. And just, I mean, people could see it, but the set they built for it was so, you walked in and you just felt like you were in a different, completely different universe, obviously, because we're supposed to be, but like with the neon lights and just, it was really cool and fun to be on night shoots and be in that environment. There's so much. Alligator Loki, I'm so excited people know about him now.
Yeah, he's really blown up.
He's just great. And we had a stuffed animal alligator that we were using to come up with stuff, and it was just ridiculous to like, we put that stuffed alligator on a line to be able to like puppet him to do certain things. And then obviously on the day, watching other performers kind of wrestle with a tiny blue stuffed animal as Alligator Loki, and seeing that come to life was just so great and so hilarious.
Loki, he's definitely become kind of like the baby, or say Grogu baby Yoda,
yes,
Lorian, or like baby Groot from like Guardians of the Galaxy. He's definitely become like a standout character, which he was in there for a decent amount of time, but it wasn't like he was in there for like the whole show or anything. So that's pretty funny. Just as far as did anyone, as far as like the stuff pop, I'm sure someone from like the props department or someone, do you know if anyone like ended up keeping the stuffed like alligator as like a souvenir kind of thing?
I do not. I hope somebody did. If I had to guess, it probably went into, I don't know, some giant storage for future things. I don't know. But it would make me happy to think that someone took it home and just has it just set up in the house.
Yeah, no, definitely. And one of the other ones, actually, I think you kind of like mentioned too, when you guys, were you part of the scene on Lamentus, like the ending of the episode where like the buildings like collapsing? Were you working like in that part of like the scene where it's like, it was almost like a one shot and you get like
yes,
and Loki are like running like around and then like the thing ends up like blowing up? Did you work like on that scene?
Yes, yeah. A lot of that was, yes, I did work in that. A lot of that was Sophia, because it was like oneer. So a lot of that was there, just like kind of helping her and dialing in the choreo, things like that. But it was, yes, I was there. It was very fun. Lots of, we had mortars going off, and we had ratchets going, which are like when you see Loki and Sylvie get like a mortar or a piece of the planet hits and they get flown back.
Yeah.
So I was in that. And yeah, it was just kind of chaos, but organized chaos, organized fun chaos. So like the best kind of chaos.
Anytime you're dealing with a Loki, there's always going to be chaos.
That's very true. That's very true.
That was another scene that really stuck out to me, just like that, because I'm sure there was like definitely like a cut or something like in there, but it looked like it was almost just like one shot the way the camera came around, and then like where the explosion happened. I kind of thought that maybe you might have been in there where she got like thrown back. So I definitely wanted to ask you about that. Now, just as far as like your career in like general too, Sarah, just like what are some of your favorite things about working in the stunt field overall? And what is like, some advice that you would give to someone that's maybe thinking about getting into the stunt field, for the first time?
Mm-hmm. My favorite thing about the stunt industry and field and what I do is that you can constantly learn something new. I know I mentioned horses earlier, but honestly, it's everything. It's dirt bikes, it's motorcycles, it's bow and arrow, it's I don't know, you could probably learn like even juggling, whatever it is that you decide to learn as a skill. At some point you might be the person that gets called. They're like, I know you know how to do this. You know how to sew in a handstand. So we need somebody that can sew in a handstand. Yeah. And you're like, okay, I, for some reason, practiced that and I can do this. So I really appreciate the randomness and just how many skills you could constantly learn for the rest of your life, and be adding to your skill set, which I really appreciate. Keeps things from ever feeling monotonous or anything like that. So
Yeah, no, I feel like with your guys, before you get into the second part, I feel like with your guys like job, it's like I can't imagine working in stunts like ever being boring, because just like some of the different things that you guys get to do on a daily basis, and different things like for different shows or different movies, you guys have like a bunch of different skill sets. So I imagine it's just like fun. It's like, hey, like let's see what we're gonna do today, like in work. Am I gonna jump off like a building? Am I gonna do like
yeah,
gonna get into a fight, or something crazy like that?
yeah, yeah.
And yeah,
Uh,
and as far as like the for just for like newcomers, someone that's like, hey, you know what, like I'm pretty good at, like, I like doing physical things, like what would you give as far as like advice goes to someone who's maybe looking to get into like the stunt field?
Learn everything possible. Use YouTube, take classes, whatever it is. Anything is going to be useful. So yeah, even learning to swim, learning to do anything, like I said, all of that will be used at some point. And other than that, just like if it is something that you want to get into, just 100% going for it. Because it's kind of like a sink or swim type of industry. So you jump into it and you're just kind of like, okay, I got to figure this out, and it feels overwhelming, but just breathe and take it one day at a time. And if you're building a little bit, just one day at a time, eventually you'll have a lot of whatever you're building.
Yeah.
And I still to this day try to remember that, and when I'm learning new skills or trying to uh, really master a skill that I already have, but I want it to be better. Doing a little every single day is better than doing nothing. So just keep going, I guess.
Just keep basically just keep working on it, and just go for it. Yeah, I mean, you never know.
Yeah.
You never know until you like try something. So just kind of put yourself out there and start working on things little by little.
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah.
think that's good advice, like overall.
And I mentioned earlier, I have a degree in something that I don't use. Not that it's not valuable, but making leaps like that can be scary. But at the end of the day, you always have the chance, if you want to do something else, you can pivot and make that decision to pivot to something else. So so I hope that makes it less scary for anybody that hears that. So
no, definitely, I agree with that. And I know you're definitely you're a very busy individual working on like a lot of different projects. Where can that at least you can talk about to some degree, like where can fans catch you next, and is there anything else you just want to say to the fans, like overall?
Good question. I cannot really say where I'm going next. With that being said, can't really say that. Eventually I would. I actually don't know if I'm allowed to say that or not. So I'm like taking the whatever.
You'll see Sarah soon enough, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah. But I do love Marvel and hope to stay in that universe. So I hope they have me for a long time. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
And anything else? Thanks for watching Loki. Anybody that is seeing this, or any other show that I've worked on, but especially Loki, since I'm on here for that. And I hope everybody really liked it, and the crew and everybody just put in so much time and effort and energy, and it was a really great project to work on. So I think all of us, even though we're a little biased, we're like really wanting people to love it just because we loved it so much. And I loved it so much. So I'm happy everybody likes it. So
no, I mean, I loved it, and just with some of the stuff, again, I won't go into spoilers for some people if you haven't seen it, which, come on, you should have watched it by now. Some of the stuff that you guys went into, and the way that it's just expanding the Marvel like universe, like overall, that was really cool. It got me really excited to see, especially the next couple like films and projects, kind of like where things are going. So yeah, thank you guys. I know it must have been a ton of, hard work, and just know that it paid off. I really enjoyed it, and like you said, I know a lot of the other fans like around the world, they really enjoyed it as well. And hopefully we do see you again, because I'm sure this isn't the last time, like obviously, that we've seen Sylvie as a character. So it'd be really cool for hopefully you to come back and work with Sophia like in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope so. I don't know what the future holds, but absolutely. Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Sarah. Like I said, I know you're super busy, so appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come on the show, just talk a little bit about your career and talk about like Loki. So really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Of course. Hi, my name's Sarah Irwin, and you are watching Pop Culture with Pat. You guys should definitely take a second to subscribe. Yeah.